Hey, what's up? Hello. We're back with another episode of Sammy and Creepy. So, in tonight's video, I have been seeing a lot about the Appalachian Mountains, right? The rules of the Appalachian Mountains. I've seen people's nighttime routines of closing their blinds and all this stuff. So I want to talk about the Appalachian Mountains, the superstitions, and tell you a couple of creepy stories of encounters that people have had in these mountains. Because personally, I was wondering, what are these people so afraid of? Yes, they are very, very old. They're like the oldest thing in the world, basically, the Appalachian Mountains. And actually, I am not that far from some of them. So maybe at some point I'll visit, but with caution, obviously, because I do believe in the paranormal and things like this. But I want to talk more about it. I wanted to do research and figure out, what's the deal with the Appalachian Mountains. Because I've always heard the superstitions, but I wanted to know, what is everyone so afraid of? From what I've gathered, it's kind of a lot of things, all being spiritual, paranormal, to cryptids and stuff like that. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. And if you are someone who lives near, in, or just knows a lot about the Appalachian Mountains, feel free to tell us more stuff in the comments. I'm just going to talk about the things that I know of and tell you some creepy stories that I found of experiences from people on the internet. Okay? So, the first thing is the Appalachian Mountains have a set of rules that you are to abide by, whether you live there or whether you are visiting or going on the trail, the hiking trails. And those are: never be in the woods from dusk till dawn. So when that sun starts going down, you need to get on up out of there. Never leave the marked trail. Now, I have heard of a horror story of someone going off of the Appalachian Trail, and literally it took a long time for them to be found, and they were not in good shape anymore. Another thing is hearing voices. Apparently, you could hear your name being called, or you could hear voices, and it's kind of like all the other folklore, though, where it's if you hear it loud, then they're far away, but if it's quiet, then they're close. Not to whistle or sing in the woods, which I believe I've done a video about whistling, maybe on TikTok. I might not have done it here, about whistling outside or at night. And then you're not to be looking too hard into the trees. According to Appalachian folklore, if you hear your name being called out there, which just kind of goes into our discussions about mimics and stuff, that's what it makes me think of. It may not be that, it may be something else, but basically, if you hear your name being called in the Appalachian Mountains or the woods, the forest, you are to completely ignore it. Do not engage, because it is believed that it could be something evil calling you, trying to get you to come out there. Kind of like those videos or those stories where you hear a woman crying or someone screaming or just someone flat out calling your name. You're supposed to ignore it because it's something trying to draw you out there. What that something is, I don't know. I've not been able to find a real clear answer on that. Maybe you can tell me. But apparently these mountains were formed over 1 billion years ago. They're the oldest. You can go back. Those Appalachian Mountains are there. So it's not that surprising that living within these untouched mountains, there are all types of entities or creatures or things that maybe we believe are not real, but that's because that's where they live. I mean, having untouched land for that long, untouched woods for that long, to me, a believer in supernatural creatures, the paranormal, all that stuff, it's not that hard for me to believe that there could be the monsters that we think are only in movies, or the creatures that we think are only in movies, living in those freaking woods. but that's just me. Now, as far as the creepy stories, I found some creepy experiences from various different situations. So whether it be like paranormal or creatures, when I was looking up for the Appalachian Mountains, it said that the Bell Witch haunting was in the Appalachian Mountains. I did not know that. I'm very familiar with the Bell Witch haunting. If you're not, I think I've already made a video on it actually. So probably on this channel or my other channel, before I stop posting paranormal on my manifestation channel. It might be over there or it might be on this channel, but I've done a video on the Bell Witch haunting. Also the Mothman. I haven't done a video on the Mothman, but I'm very familiar with that as well. But let's get into some creepy stories of people and what they have experienced in these mountains while either camping or hiking or whatever. So in 2011, this man took a week off from work and he decided to go hiking in the Appalachian Mountains down the Appalachian Trail. Everything was going really well until, maybe he didn't know this, but he broke a rule and day turned into night, which I guess yeah, I understand it's a rule, but people camp and hike out there for like days at a time. So like obviously he's going to be there after dark. So in this case, he was obviously, like I said, he took a week off from work and it was getting dark. He had a tent set up and everything. He gets in his tent. He's going to go to sleep and he starts hearing noises as if something or someone is approaching his tent. It wasn't really bothered, so he didn't even attempt to like check on it because he just didn't care. So the next day he gets up and he goes back to hiking. He gets pretty deep into the woods and so he sets up camp again and he starts himself a fire. All of a sudden, next to his pile of firewood, he sees a man. A badly burned man. Like his hands and body were scorched and his face was literally smoking. He was frozen in fear or shock and the figure just kept staring at him. So once he's able to move again, he quickly packs his stuff and gets out of there. On his way out, he sees a burned down house and the sheriff and the police are still there. The sheriff tells this man that 4 days ago, this house burned to the ground and everyone inside of it burned with it. So obviously, what he saw was one of the people that lived in that house. That is so freaking creepy. Ew. I literally would have got out of there too. Ain't no way. Now, of course, another story or another thing that I came across was the story about Dudleytown. I don't know why it didn't, maybe it did register to me. It's been a little while since I made the video. If you saw my video on Dudleytown, which is the cursed town, it's in the Appalachian Mountains. So if you don't know, I'll do a quick recap on what Dudleytown is. Dudleytown is a town that is considered cursed. It's actually illegal to go in there as far as I know right now, because so many people were going in there and literally losing their minds or just trespassing and, not being respectful. But it is a cursed, deserted town in the Appalachian Mountains. It was founded by the descendants of Edmund Dudley. This man was actually beheaded for treason. And before he was beheaded, he cursed the land, essentially. Also, it was believed that his family was cursed. Like, if you go to my video about this, there was a lot of bad things that happened in this town before it was deserted. It was built in the 18th century and it was abandoned in the 19th century. It was truly believed that the town was abandoned because the residents all went insane and started unaliving themselves after claiming that they were all possessed by demons. In the Dudleytown story that I tell you about, there is actually a true story of a family who moved there and it ended very badly for them. Like, the man left on a work trip, came back, and the woman had lost her freaking mind and was telling him about all these creatures and stuff that she saw. Yeah. So that land is cursed. I would not go there. And it's actually illegal to go there. I'm pretty sure. People have reported like seeing creatures in the woods there, seeing orbs and weird lights and stuff. But yeah. Now, one legend that is obviously folklore or just a legend is the story of Spearfinger. So, what the Spearfinger is, it's said to be a witch-like hag that's able to take on the figure of like a grandma, a sweet little grandma. And apparently the Spearfinger lurks around the highest peaks of the Smoky Mountains. And she keeps a special eye on children who like wander too far out into the woods. So basically this witch preys on children who are scared and pretends like she's going to help them and get them back to their parents. But what she really does is she slowly sings them to sleep and then uses her fingers or fingernails to gouge out their liver and eat it in front of them. Yeah. Apparently that legend comes from the early Native Americans, the Cherokee Indians. It was created to scare children into probably behaving, staying close to home, not wandering off, that type of thing. But still super freaking creepy. It would have kept me from going anywhere. And the last story I want to talk about is one where a couple goes camping in the mountains in Virginia, and these figures try to lure them out into the woods. So this couple, like I said, they go camping. They're in Virginia. They were asleep in their tent and they heard rustling sounds outside of the tent. So the guy, he gets out of the tent to go see what the noise is from, and he sees these figures. And so he does something to like scare them off. I guess the way they explain it is that the figures were trying to entice the man to run after them. So essentially trying to lure him out in the woods, which he didn't. Good thing. He didn't follow them. So the next night, I guess they had been hiking. They came back to their tent and they were freaked out. So they had defensive weapons. I'll say that. And so they were ready because I don't think that they thought that these were figures. They probably thought these were real people. And so they were scared and they were ready to defend themselves if needed. So that night, those same figures came back. So the guy fires his defensive weapons and the figures kind of like disappeared or whatever. So I guess the next morning they were just ready to go. They're getting their stuff together and they are hiking out. And it was like midday. So it was daytime. And they saw the silhouette of a figure. At this point they realize it's not human, watching them. Luckily they just kept going and they managed to get back to like their vehicles or whatever, and because they didn't engage. But this is kind of like what it says in the folklore, like, you know, don't engage, don't follow it. They're trying to, it's entities trying to lead you off into the woods, and luckily he didn't follow. But it's also said that like 24 hikers a year go missing in the Appalachian trails. Is that what's happening to them? Are they getting lost? Are they following figures off into the woods? Like, what is going on? Now, it does say that even though around 24 hikers a year go missing, most of them are found within a couple days, but some are not. So what's going on in the Appalachian Mountains, guys? What is going on? If you know anything, if you have more information on this, it's really interesting to me because, I mean, I love the mountains. I've been to the mountains, but I didn't, when I went, I wasn't aware of all of this. Now I kind of want to go and like, you know, get like a cabin and see what all the hype is about. Obviously, I will follow the rules. I'm not dumb. I believe in that stuff. But yeah, if you live in the Appalachian Mountains, if you've ever been there or experienced anything creepy, tell me in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, all the things YouTube wants you to do for me. And don't forget to stay creepy. Bye.